Hey everyone, welcome back to the Kirkpatrick Podcast. It is your girl Vanessa, and we are here today to talk all about current events. So, as we are all very much aware, here in the US, we are dealing with a lot of, I don't want to say instability, because that sounds one way, a lot of unrest with what's happening in our federal government, with this Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, as you might have all heard. First and foremost, just want to say how so sorry, and my heart go out to anyone that's been affected by the layoffs. I know it's been challenging and abrupt, and it feels like your whole world, just shifted overnight. And so, we are certainly thinking of you during this time, and, hope that you can find a little bit of solace in the Kirkpatrick community. And that honestly goes for anyone that ever loses their job. I know that can be quite a challenge. But today, what I want to focus on is this whole idea of efficiency. And this is not a political conversation at all. So I want to put that disclaimer out there. We do not endorse or affiliate with any particular party. We just want the best for our federal government, and for all governments. Let's be honest here. Well, maybe not all. Anyway, just kidding. So when it comes to DOGE, their mission is to find efficiency in the government. And as someone that has worked with the federal government, at times it can feel like there's inefficiencies, right? But that is also every single organization has inefficiencies. And I will raise my hand first and foremost and say, like, Anchored Training and Kirkpatrick Partners, we have inefficient processes at times. And so that is not something that is unique necessarily to the government, right? And what I think is so important about what is happening, it's shining a very bright light on a problem that all organizations in many sectors deal with, just on a very much more quiet scale. Yes, we've heard of massive layoffs in the private sector, right? Like I think Amazon let some people go at the end of last year, and some of the other organizations as well. I would say that 2023 and 2024 for me felt like the year of efficiency when it came to the private sector. Lots of layoffs happening, especially in the learning space, because of many reasons. One, not really understanding how AI was going to affect our world, but also because we were toying around with whether or not there was going to be a recession. And that, got some folks nervous, or some organizations nervous, and started doing some of those layoffs. So I found that to be the case for the private sector. Is like those were the years of efficiency. And I guess we're going to call 2025 like the year of efficiency for our federal government here in the States. Now, I think that when we have these years or these times of unrest, this is when our work matters the most. So working with those in the federal government, and, honestly, a lot of the calls that we're getting right now from the private sector are in reaction to what happened over the last couple of years, saying we can no longer go by without having a true learning data and analytics strategy. And we need your help to understand it. We are no longer able to say, people like the course, they found the instructor to be interesting. Everyone passed with an 80 or above. It is different now. We are now in a place where executives want to see the return on investment, especially as they are auditing all of their processes and policies, their technology, to see how AI can support the efficiency and streamlining and all of these things. And so, if you are sitting on the sideline saying, we're still not measuring properly, there is no appetite for true measurement of our learning initiatives, know that that is wrong. There is appetite, and more often than not, because the brand of learning and development and of training has always just kind of been a cost center, first to go when times are tough, because that's like how it's always been. People don't think, hey, let's talk to the learning team about having a learning strategy. They just assume, well, we're going to do what we've always done. Shift the work over to someone else in the organization, shift it to subject matter experts until we can hire an L&D team back. That is what happens. And no one is going to come to you and say, you need to save your department, right? Or no one's going to come to you and save it for you and say, you've got to start working on it. You've got to do that work for yourself. And you've got to start inch by inch, bit by bit. I think sometimes we assume we have to do the most and create these really big changes in order to move the needle. And we underestimate the power of smaller change, the power of small incremental changes in our organization. But we've got to start doing things totally differently, because what is going to start happening is that CEOs, executives, stakeholders, board of advisors, board of directors, they are going to start looking at what Elon is doing with this government efficiency and say, you know what, if we can find that much waste in the government, how much waste can we find in our organization? And even at the state level, right? That is now being replicated by the states, at least in my lovely state of Florida. Our governor has created a Florida DOGE. And so I predict we will start to continue to see that throughout all of the states. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is I hate that I'm using this word. It's not really what I mean, but a trend for organizations to uncover true waste. And that is your job. And I think we assume that our CFOs are kind of that, that's what they do, right? Because our CFOs are usually the ones that say all right, you are going to be the ones that go and cut departments and programs and really provide, challenge departments to say, hey, you've got to figure out what it is that you can cut, how to do more with less. But I think what we're going to start seeing is actual roles, or these little mini task forces and things like that. Maybe some external folks to come in, because sometimes we're just too close. And I think that's also part of it too, with efficiency and evaluation and measurement. I do not believe that you should rely solely on your internal measurement and evaluation tactics or strategies. And I know that might sound of course she's going to say that. She owns a company that does this, right? That is an external auditor or external evaluator. Yes. And I think that it is something that you can do continuously over time, but there is a great value in having someone else external to your organization look at your processes and how you do things. Because you start to fall into this trap of well, this is the way that we've always done it. So why wouldn't I do things, the same way we've always done it? It worked 20 years ago. Why wouldn't it work now? The fact that I just did 2025 math and 20 years is only 2005 actually makes me sick to my stomach. So sorry, I have to pause for a minute to not throw up. But anywho, time is certainly flying. Okay, back to what I was saying. there are times that it is important for mission critical initiatives to bring in an external auditor every once in a while to just say, how are we doing? And it's not something that has to be done for every, small program or anything like that. You don't want to be dependent on external auditors for everything, but just those really important things. I think that becomes really important. And we are in a place now that we can no longer sit back and say, well, we didn't really have the stakeholder buy-in to do measurement correctly and properly. So we're just not going to do it at all. And so, I want to kind of move into kind of some of the things that I'm hearing and some of the things that I'm seeing and I'm reading online. Like, I can really go down these rabbit holes. And sometimes as a government contractor, I have to stop and say, you know what, I need to stop looking at the internet for a little bit for my own sanity. And I know that is very privileged because I'm not physically in it. But I think that this is time that we talk about what it is that we're doing when it comes to training. And when we talk about, how we're going to classify some of our programs and really show, that these are mission critical programs, part of it is we've got to really think about readiness. Is it ensuring readiness and productivity gains? How is the time that our people are spending out of their work environment helping to make them better at their job when they're back in the environment? Make it worth my while to take folks out of the day-to-day job. And so one of the things that I find is a big challenge is, how do I quantify productivity gains? How do I quantify and measure level 4? Does it have to take, do I have to do these longitudinal studies in order to understand impact? And the answer is yes. To fully understand true impact, yeah, you do need a longitudinal study. But in times of, challenge and disarray and, really trying to we've got to really do this thing and figure out if it has impact, the answer is truly no. And the reason that I say that is because there are ways to do impact studies and assess, get an impact score without needing to set up all the metrics properly. It does not mean that is the recommended way, and that is not the way that your program should be built. And if you're interested in a program that helps you understand how you should build a program or initiative with the metrics and the measurements baked in from the beginning and not an afterthought, then you need to join our brand new certification program, the Kirkpatrick Performance Designer Program. We are launching our inaugural cohort. Say that 9 times fast, Vanessa, or 10 times fast? 10 times fast. Our inaugural cohort this May 12th to 15th. And we're super excited for it. There's a killer deal on it, a deal that you'll never see again. So if you are interested, now is the time. But anyway, that is to set up programs from the beginning. But you've got legacy programs, right? You've got legacy systems. You've got legacy initiatives that didn't have those things baked in. So does that mean I have to not assess impact of those? And the answer is no. Or that I can't. No, you can. It's just going to take a little bit more fact finding and a really great qualitative researcher to help pull the impact stories from those that went through the program. And it just may be a little bit more challenging to understand like where we started, like baseline quantitative numbers versus, where we are today, right? To be able to like match those, because if you didn't have the before data, kind of hard to say, where you are now. So it's not impossible, and it can be done relatively quickly. So at Kirkpatrick Partners, we've been working on a methodology to be able to do just this. How do we assess impact quickly where there may not be the ability or appetite for a super long longitudinal study? If you're facing DOGE coming to your department and saying, what are you going to cut? You need to cut 40%. What are you cutting? You don't have 3 months, 3 years to set up a proper study for every single program. You need to look at your programs and say, okay, what am I going to cut and how? And unfortunately, without having data to back up what it is that you might cut, you may cut a program that is truly making a huge impact for your organization. You just have not been able to quantify that back. And so for those of you, in the government looking at, we've got to make these cuts. Our budgets, have come in. They are less than what we thought they were going to be. How are we going to use our dollars wisely? You've got to tie back right now. Everything has to tie back to readiness and to productivity. And notice that I'm not saying anything that is financial related, right? Like, so when people are saying, all people want is ROI, I can tell you this. Yeah, it's really great, in the private sector to know ROI and like a cost, and like that can be calculated. But CEOs are very smart people. Well, I don't want to say all of them, but like a lot of them are very smart. They know that not everything is quantifiable based on dollars and cents. And they know that a more productive workforce means more, faster turnaround times and faster customer fulfillment, more innovation, right? They know that a workforce that is ready to meet the mission of the organization is a lot better than one that is not, and one that is ready for any challenge that may come in front of them. We talk about readiness. I think, a personnel readiness, we often will think of it from like a military lens, right? Like, are you ready to go to war? And while that is absolutely crucial, and I do hope that all of our military personnel are ready for that, there is also readiness of personnel, in non-military functions. And that is to handle any change that is going to come in front of them. Disruption happens. COVID happened 5 years ago, like 5 years ago, the week of this recording. That happened out of nowhere. We had to be ready to shift our processes, our whole world in days, right? ChatGPT literally felt like it was birthed in November of 2022, and it completely disrupted how we are functioning now, where I read something the other day or I was listening to something that in the next 12 to 18 months, they're saying that organizations are going to start having AI employees. Imagine trying to get your employees ready for something like that. Disruption happens every day. Is your organization ready? And if the answer is no, it's not about spending money on sales training. It's not about spending money on things that make the money business. It's about spending money and looking at the landscape of our, educational processes and our educational opportunities in our organization and saying, are we focused on the right things when we're training our people? Are we giving them the tools that they need to be ready? And if the answer is no, then that's where these impact studies and these true assessments can tell you where you're spending your time and your dollars. That just is not returning the investment that you need. And the beauty of setting up evaluation metrics, like, yes, you're going to do your one-time impact study on your legacy products, and you will want to, once you set up the metrics and the measurement of your mission critical programs, you will be able to measure or constantly see that impact score, right? And it's a real-time thing to help you assess, okay, are we doing well in these areas? Is this program having the impact that we need? If no, then why not? And it may not be that the program is awful. It just may be that the needs of the organization or the employees have changed, right? Like AI happened, right? So some of these clerical, training on these clerical monotonous tasks are no longer making an impact because it's no longer needed. And so I want you to really rethink efficiency, training, and impact. And ask yourself, am I able to say that our learning programs are helping the organization become more efficient? Is our training programs tied to personnel readiness? Is our training programs tied to impact? And if the answers are no, then it's time to look at, why are we still doing it? Or is there a better way that we could be getting that same learning across? How can we rethink learning and development? Like, y'all, now is the time to rethink learning and development. The private sector had their DOGE moment. Government is having it now. The states will have them soon. Private sector probably have like another little bit of it. It is time to rethink learning and development. Way too many smart people are starting to realize if your training is not tied to, okay, I almost cursed. Training is not tied to things that matter, it is going. And with the way that AI is coming for content creation, it is going to end up getting tied to content creation, and like learning departments are going to go away. Because if the humans that are developing the training can't find the efficiency, at least we can find efficiency in developing content faster and failing faster and seeing what works and what doesn't. So I think that we're in a crucial time, but this is the most important time. So you've got to reskill. You've got to think through, I still see a lot of folks in learning talking about like portfolios and e-learning development, all of that. Don't worry about that. The technology is going to handle that. You need to focus right now on being able to show organizations value, being able to show organizations metrics, impact, consulting with the business, being a strategic partner, and how you can leverage AI to help you with some of those other tasks. That is where you're going to make your money moving forward. The money in instructional design is gone. I see it all the time. I literally looked this morning at a job post for a training and development manager overseeing an entire department. Now, I recognize this is a membership organization, so like a nonprofit, and the salary range was $40,000 to $50,000 for a manager. In 2009, so a little less than 20 years ago. So I guess we're going to start showing my age. I started out at work making $35,000 for a non-manager role. So we're talking about 16 years later, 15 years later, 16 years later, and someone in a manager position is now making 40 to 50. You know, I definitely understand challenges organizations have being able to pay people more. But to me, part of what, that's not unique. I see individual contributor roles that are like $35 an hour, $50 an hour for like a 1099. Someone then has to go pay for the tools to deliver said products, that has to pay their own insurance, medical, and, like business liability. That has to pay their own taxes, like fully out of that $50. So like by the time all is said and done, you're really making like $20, $25 an hour. So, which for some may be really great. Also don't want to discount that. But I'm originally from New Jersey. Our cost of living is crazy. Homes are insanely expensive. And I've got 2 kids and college is not getting cheaper right now. So I think that if you're going, so I say all this to say, the trend of finances in the learning space is going down. Because it is no longer really special what it is that you're doing. Where the specialty is in strategy and measurement and evaluation. So focus your upskilling there for the maximum amount of dollars and to be able to make your own impact on your organization. I'd love to hear from you. What are you seeing in your own organizations when it comes to looking at L&D spend and how your stakeholders and your executives are asking you to share back the work that it is that you're doing and how it's contributing to your organization? Is it something that's being talked about, or am I like way off in left field? With that, friends, I will catch you all on the next episode and we'll talk soon. Bye.